In this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips that got me from my worst flare 2 years in to today where I've completely healed my TSW. There's a reason why all holistic and Western doctors, including Dr. Julie Smith, have recommended exercise to resolve issues. It's because the benefits physiologically and psychologically are immense. Keeping the blood pumping around your body daily and releasing endorphins just does wonders for your skin and your mental health. There was only one stint in my entire process where I didn't exercise, and it's hard to say whether it was directly or indirectly impacting my skin. However, it led to my worst flare ever 2 years in. For exercise in the beginning, I did BJJ or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu alongside other martial arts. However, just because of the intensity of the sport and the amount of rubbing and grabbing on the surface of my skin, I eventually moved over to weightlifting, as it wasn't as intense, there wasn't as much impact physically on my skin. However, there was still a great amount of increase in the heart rate to be able to reap the rewards that exercise has to offer. My brother, who also went through TSW, he decided to go on long walks, as if you're in a deep flare and you're not particularly mobile, this is something that is lower intensity and will less likely result in itching and sweating. However, you'll still reap the rewards as long as you're pushing your body sufficiently. Keeping yourself cool by wearing breathable cotton fabrics, and then wearing, short sleeve t-shirts or shorts, depending on the weather, it just results in less itching occurring. I've done a video already about what I did personally, diet-wise, and I'll link it, up here or down below or wherever it is. However, I cannot do a video on how I healed and the main tips that I implemented without mentioning this. I personally cut out gluten, dairy and eggs, along other things that came up on my blood test, which was like coffee and oats and oranges, and the second I cut out these foods, within about a week or two, I already started to see massive improvements in my skin. This was my choice of relieving stress, however, walking or reading can have the same impact. This process is hard, let alone with the fact that you still have to deal with your life. Bills, if you're a student, doing exams, putting food on the table and just looking after your children and yourself becomes 10 times harder when you have a chronic skin condition. And stress is usually a main byproduct of this. Stress can do a lot of different funny things to the brain and the body. However, one thing it does for us skin sufferers is create inflammation and itching. Meditation for me allowed me to take emotion out of the equation and make smarter decisions. If I was stressed about how long it was going to take for me for my skin to heal, or whether quitting steroids was the right decision at all, slowing everything down and relaxing kept me on course. Taking anxiety and worry out of the equation allowed me to see my path ahead, which was to keep exercising, keep on learning and stick with the diet. And I knew that eventually, and this will be the same for you, if you do this, the healed milestone will come. Now I understand this is one that is largely out of our control due to the fact that we are unconscious when we sleep and the amount of itching and discomfort that occurs at night. However, I believe there's still things we can do that can improve sleep. What I would do was I'd get off my phone 30 minutes before I sleep and just chuck it to the other side of the room. I would meditate just before I went to bed, just to make sure that I had every single possible chance to be able to try and get to sleep quicker, and then also when I did eventually get to sleep, to try and stay asleep as long as I possibly could, and doing those two things just had a massive impact for me. This tip for sleep is more dietary, however, as all of us have issues with histamine, which is the mediator that causes itching, just reducing as many histamine releasing foods or histamine rich foods from your diet could have a massive positive impact on your sleep quality. How often have you been told something that is completely crazy and then you dismissed it? However, you then research that thing that you believe was impossible just because logically it didn't seem feasible, and then it turns out it is true. Or even vice versa, you're told something that you believe, like eating vegetables is good for your health. However, because you don't understand why eating veg is good for your health, you just dismiss it entirely and don't eat them because you believe you're some unbreakable god. Throughout this entire process, you'll hear a lot of helpful information, but you'll also hear a lot of crazy whack theories with no validity behind them. And this is where educating yourself from the right sources or people is key. If you understand why you're cutting out foods, why you're exercising, why you're staying off steroids entirely, you'll have a much better chance adhering to any protocol or healing process. And then if you manage to stay on that process long enough, you will eventually heal. It's inevitable. This one is often met with a lot of backlash and questions about personal hygiene and smell, but allow me to explain. When you fall over and graze your knee or your elbow, the wound begins very sore. It's open, it's bloody, and it's oozy. Then, over time, it eventually dries up, and then after that, it scabs over, allowing the body to create new skin cells underneath so that there's fresh new skin once the scab eventually falls off over time. But if we were to constantly rub, take off this scab, wash it, then the body has to fight 10 times harder to continue that process of drying it out, scabbing over, to be able to allow new skin to form underneath. And the same process applies with TSW and eczema. If we're consistently showering day in and day out and putting hot, powerful water over our hypothetical scabs, then the body never has chance to, do its job and scab over and heal and create these fresh new skin cells underneath. And yes, eventually, like a scab, if you're consistently doing this, it will heal. However, you're just prolonging the time it will take. Whenever I've been to see a health professional, a doctor or a dermatologist, they have also recommended to me that reducing showering is very, very important. And for the questions about hygiene and smell, of course, still wash with a hand and a cloth, the smelly areas, so that if you're at work or you're at school, you're not putting off every single person that's sat around you and you're that smelly kid that no one bloody likes. However, like we've seen with other areas of this process, your body adapts and you eventually do not smell anywhere near as bad as you do within the first week. And what I did was I went out and bought some really nice aftershave, I got some roll-on deodorant, and I would actually get complimented, not all the time obviously, but every now and then about my smell, which is mental considering in my worst flares and to the point of where I healed, I was just showering once a week. I decided to cut out moisturisers 10 months in, right in the middle of winter, and this was one of the greatest decisions I ever made. Using no moisturiser is called moisture withdrawal within the TSW and eczema community, and there's also something called NMT, which is no moisture treatment. However, that is just a topic for another video. Just like the reducing the showering tip, if we're constantly putting moisture on our body and rubbing the skin with the moisturiser, then the body, first of all, never gets a chance to scab over. But then also finding a moisturiser that could potentially be good for you, that doesn't include chemicals that you could be allergic to or irritate your skin, just takes up so much time and so much effort, and it oftentimes just prolongs the whole healing journey. And just like your body becomes addicted to topical steroids, your body eventually becomes addicted to moisturisers as well. Our body forgets how to even produce the oils to moisturise and keep our skin clean and clear and smooth. And it was only once I cut them out did the spreading and the redness end, and also the skin eventually became stronger and more resistant to scratching. And yes, in the beginning, for the first week or two, for some people it's 3, the skin was very dry and painful and cracked often at any movement, but this is completely normal. And then once those couple weeks pass and your body begins to relearn again how to moisturize, how to produce those oils for yourself, you will see dramatic improvements, particularly in the levels of redness and also how resistant your skin becomes to scratching. This is more of a mental model that I use to get me through the hard times. However, this can be applied to anywhere, not just TSW. You have 2 options. Number 1, you can take the victim mindset. You can believe that the world is out to get you, that you are the only person on this planet that is struggling. You can let yourself be consumed by anger, hopelessness and self-pity, and matters that aren't important and that won't get you better. Or you can take option number 2. You can take responsibility for absolutely everything. You can take responsibility for the fact that you were the person that put these steroids on your body in the first place because you weren't willing to take care of your health and your skin in the first place, and that you are responsible for all the emotions that flood through your mind every day. You can choose the emotion hate for the doctors, which will just get you nowhere, or you can choose something like curiosity for how you got to this point in the first place and how you're going to remedy this now in the present moment. You can decide whether you eat correctly, whether you exercise today, whether you get out of bed and do everything you need to do to be able to heal, and you can make decisions that future you will appreciate. Because hate for the doctors or anyone who you believe got you to this point in the first place is completely futile, because you have no control over it. You don't have control over external matters. You can't keep mentally taking yourself back there and think, what if I didn't do this? What if I didn't take that? You can't go back to the past and change these things. It's impossible. So don't put your time and energy into trying to do that in the first place. Focus on what you can control right now, which is yourself, your actions, and your choices. And if you put all of your energy into things that you can control over things that you can't control, you will heal much quicker. And if you can understand this, you'll also be well equipped in the future after you've healed. These are the tips that I learned over 3 years of trial and error and many different mistakes, and other people's tips from people that have healed could be largely different to mine. However, if I could go back and tell myself 3 years ago these things right now, I believe I could have healed much, much quicker. And because I can't do that, because we can't go in the past as we've explained, I hope that these tips could potentially help you. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to be posting more videos like this weekly, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the videos. And also you can message me directly if you have any other questions. I'll link my Instagram down below. Thank you very much.